in loving memory of Sheikh Abdul Qadir As-Sufi. This episode contains references to topics which may not be suitable for younger audiences. In particular, there is mention of recreational use of LSD, as well as a discussion centered around expletives. There is mention of the word BASTARD, as it is the translation of the name of a certain Muslim American punk band. The word SHIT, along with the censored, by the guest himself, not bleeped, version of the infamous F word may also be heard. If you are watching the video, you may see our guest smoking. Rest assured it is only tobacco. Audience discretion is highly advised. Bismillah, wassalatu wassalam. Oh wow, Wallace.
Yeah, Wallace has come to say hi. Wants to know what's going, where cheese is at.
Jeez, mashallah. Mashallah, mashallah. And anyway, we are live now, so I might as well just keep this in, just to, yeah. Okay, Bismillah, wassalatu wassalam ala Rasulillah. Assalamu alaikum, dear viewers, dear listeners. Peace and blessings be upon you. Welcome back to Botswana's first ever Muslim podcast. I'm your host, Mustaqim Habib, aka Moss. You can see I've got my Movember mustache lined up, and that should give you an indication about when exactly this podcast episode was recorded. But that being said, let me bring up the profile picture of today's guest. Look at that, look at that. So many things you can just say from that. So many things if some of you are foaming at the mouth to just refute him already. But, this is the scholar and the student. We get controversial every now and again. Let me bring him up on Skype as well. This is our brother. He calls himself Celt Islam, and I shall probably be referring to him as that throughout the entirety of this episode. Brother Celt, Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to Botswana.
Wa alaikum salam rahmatullah. It's a pleasure.
Excellent, excellent. I mean, we've been through such a lot just to start recording this episode and so on and so forth. But, Allah is the one who provides at the end of the day. We finally made it. Alhamdulillah. So, Brother Celt here is a musician, calls himself the analog fakir. And we might as well just ask him how he exactly came up with a name such as that. Brother Celt is someone who has embraced Islam later on in his life. And yeah, he has such an interesting story surrounding that with the likes of the luminary Sheikh Abdul Qadir As-Sufi, how he finds himself today, and how he reconciled being a musician with being Muslim, because the common narrative is that music is haram. So, Brother Celt, so many things I could, say about that, but just to give you a little background about this podcast, in regards to music and Muslims, you are the second guest I have had to speak about this, actually. I don't know if you've heard of James Hodkinson. He's from Birmingham. He's also doing a lot of research at university level and so on and so forth. Like you, he embraced Islam at a later stage in life. He wasn't born. And he's also a white Muslim. And he has a lot of great things to say about music as a force for good and so on and so forth. He also does electronic music such as yourself. So let's start from there. Is music haram?
I would say by default, no. But some music can be. I think it depends on its intention and what it really is about. So, I have a slight difference of opinion with some people. Some people will just say it's completely haram. Some people will say it's makruh. Some people will say, well, it's all halal. I'll say, well, some is and some isn't. But by default, no. I think by default, music itself No, it's primordial. It's part of your fitra, your nature, your primordial self. And to deny that is to deny what Allah has created within you. Music is an interesting human expression. It's mathematical, it's spiritual, it's many things, but in essence, it's frequencies and sounds. And I suppose, yeah, I would say for definite music is not haram. But, again, some music, what does it project? Especially pop music, it's just garbage. And some pop music's fun. You can have fun music, but some music's just about, it's pure capitalism. It's just I know about the game. I'm in the game. I've just been talking to my missus tonight. I said, if I had £1 million now, I'd probably be one of the most famous musicians. You just need the money behind you. If you want to be famous, if that's what your goal is, you just have to have the money and the marketing, and boom, you're off. And sell out, just copy and, play safe and sell out and just copy what everyone else is doing, and you'll do well.
Absolutely.
And that's the farce of modern day music industry. It is, I would say a lot of that is haram, because it's just, these people are horrible people. They only care about money and exploitation. You read about it all the time, about bands being totally exploited, and have been. Whereas myself, I have been signed to a major label, and it was a nightmare. So I've made my own label. I just put my own stuff out, and occasionally I'll put stuff out on other people's labels, but purely through licensing. They don't own it. I own my own music.
Wow. Excellent. Well, I mean, on the topic of music, brother Celt, I think it's safe to posit my introduction to, of all things, Irish music. How I first came across Irish music. So this might expose my age, but whatever. So I was playing FIFA as a kid, FIFA 05, 2005, and I heard this song called "To Youth My Sweet Roisin Doff" by what is the band's name? Flogging Molly. Yes, them. And they had this this sound that I couldn't describe, but I now know is called punk rock. Of course, infused with a lot of Irish instruments, with a lot of maybe what you can call stereotypical stoner music, and so on and so forth. First of all, I'd like to ask you, brother Celt, why is it that bands such as Flogging Molly, and I was listening to Dropkick Murphys earlier on today, why does Irish music go so well with punk rock? And on the topic of punk rock, I'll start where I left off with brother James Hodkinson. We spoke about music and Muslims venturing into music. Do you think Muslims should venture into punk rock?
There's been Muslim punk rockers since the 70s. And you're looking at one. It wasn't that long. It wasn't that long ago. I was going to the mosque with a red Mohican and doing the adhan and freaking everyone out.
Allahu Akbar.
I used to wear a kilt and a studded jacket with Quranic scripture written on it and all types of stuff. I was proper far out, and I wasn't the only one. At the time I was living in Huddersfield, which was once the mecca of punk rock in Britain. It was the place where Sex Pistols did their last gig, and today there's still a punk community in Huddersfield, and we're like a big family. And in fact, one of our elders has just passed away, brother Rafiq, Muhammad Rafiq. He was one of the original punk rockers and part of the Huddersfield punk family, and he recently passed away. Mashallah, may Allah have mercy on him. But yeah, you know, punk rock is dear to me. You know, I'm still a punk rocker. You know, and I love punk rock, and I suppose punk rock and Irish music go well because it's got that similar spirit, that similar vibe. Absolutely. You know, that pick me up vibe, and you know, letting go and just dancing like how you feel. That's the thing I love about punk gigs, is that everybody's dancing their own way, doing their own thing. And you'll see black people, all types of people at a punk gig, people who are in wheelchairs. You know, it's always been a scene that was open to everybody. And more so than just straight metal. You know, the metal scene, you know, there's a lot of right wing. You get a lot of right wing in the metal scene. They tried it with the punk scene too. You know, there was, you know, neo-Nazi types that had made their own punk bands, and they tried it, but it just failed because the whole punk scene is driven by Nazi, being against Nazis. You know, punching a Nazi. You know, that's what we used to do when we were kids. You know, it was like that. So, but and I love Dropkick Murphys. You know, he's a great band.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
But I think out of all punk bands, I think the Damned are probably one of the best.
Wow.
And I think I'm being a bit biased there because I know a couple of the Damned members personally. The singer Dave Lanian and the keyboard player Monty. Now, the keyboard player Monty in the Damned is a Sufi.
Wow.
Yeah, people don't know. They don't know who they're dealing with. Monty is part of the Ibn Arabi Society. You know, when I meet Monty, we're talking about Ibn Arabi all night. And Dave Vanian will sit with us, and he's into that as well, because he's actually originally from Hungary, from Transylvania, hence the name Vanian. You know, he's the Count Dracula kind of rockabilly type, you know. But amazing people, very well read, very intellectual, very open-minded, you know. So, and they released the first ever punk record in the charts, was the Damned, New Rose. And I like Ramones. Love the Ramones.
Oh, wow.
You know,
You've got very good taste, Brother Celt, and I think some of my friends who will end up watching this, they'll be laughing through their teeth right now, because back in school I was a huge punk rocker, mashallah. Well, at least I'd like to think so. Maybe you would disagree, being a punk purist, if there's even such a thing as that, but yeah, I was definitely very anti-Nazi, very anti-establishment, and that's kind of what got me into punk in the first place. This feeling of, you know, as a Muslim, you see a lot of things wrong in the world, a lot of things wrong in the establishment, and then here's punk that says screw the establishment, middle finger to the establishment, middle finger to Nazis. I'm like, yeah, let me take this on wholesale. But then, you know, when you become more religious, you're told that music is haram, so it kind of fell away. But that punk ethos never really died in me, as much as I tried to suppress it. And alhamdulillah, in recent times I've been letting it out a lot more to really reconcile that with my Muslim identity. So mashallah, you've got great taste in punk bands, and yeah, you even know a couple of these punk rockers personally. So
you must know Aki Noir's from Fundamental.
Actually, no, I'm drawing a blank there. Astaghfirullah. Forgive me.
That's the whole scene you need to get into, is the Fundamental scene, because the Fundamental started in the 80s, and they were like a hip-hop punk Asian band.
Wow.
You know, with rap. They were kind of like an British Asian version of Public Enemy. And in fact, their first gig in London, the Last Poets came to, you know, and saw them, you know. But he's an interesting character, is Aki, because Aki runs Nation Records, which signed people like Natasha Atlas, Trans Global Underground. But he was the drummer for the band The Southern Death Cult, which were a punk band, which became known as The Cult, one of the biggest rock bands of all time.
Yeah.
And but Aki's really interesting because he's a Pakistani who came to Britain when he was 5. And he's probably the most punk rock Pakistani I've ever met. You know, and he's into that whole scene as well, because in America there is like the Caminas and a few other punk bands. But I think but I love the guys, but I just think they're cheesy. They're cliche, cheesy, and for me that it's just typical middle class jumping on a scene that's frankly quite gone. They've missed the train there. You know, I like them, don't get me wrong, but I won't buy the records. It doesn't impress me. Whereas today, I'll buy Horror. Horror from LA, probably one of the best punk bands going at the moment, because they mix trap, hip hop, dubstep with punk and techno, and it's just phenomenal. I love Horror. I think they're one of the best bands on the scene at the moment.
That's I mean, that sounds like a trip in of itself, mashallah. And you mentioned the Kaminas. I know this is kind of family friendly, but for those of our viewers who don't speak good Urdu, Kaminas literally means the bastards, and that's the name of the band. So a Muslim punk band from the States call themselves the Kaminas, which I always tell to my friends, and they have such a laughing fit over it. But it is what it is, and thank you for bringing that up. Since we're on the topic of punk, and we talked about pop at the beginning, what do you make of pop punk, as it's called?
I mean, you know, like Weezer.
Oh, yeah.
You know, I think even NoFX are a bit pop punky.
Well, yeah, I can see what you're saying over there, yeah.
You know, so I think some of it's can be fun, you know. What's the other one called? Sum 31?
Sum 41, yeah. You missed it by 10.
Sum 41,
but yeah.
Sum 41. You know, I like it. It's good. It's fun. When you're out, you know, like with your mates at the pub or something, and it's a summer and that's blasting, it's great. I like it. You know, it's party music.
Basically, and with my generation, I was born mid-90s, grew up in the 2000s, and a lot of rock that we grew up knowing was in actual effect pop punk. You know, you've got things like Blink 182, I think that's what they're called, yeah.
Green Day.
Thank you for mentioning Green Day, because that's my favorite band. I was going to take such a huge risk and say that, because a lot of punk purists will shoot you down as long as, you know, when you mention Green Day.
Well, you know why that is?
Well, yeah, you can go ahead.
Well, one, they're slightly jealous. But really, it boils down to their sound. They're a bit too close to the Damned. To the point where I think there was issues where I think the Damned had issues with them. They were like, wait a minute, some of these songs are Damned songs that you've slightly changed. So it gets like that. I mean, Led Zeppelin's gone through it so many times, you know, with Stairway to Heaven and all these stuff. Look, I like Green Day. I couldn't give a toss what anyone thinks. I like Green Day. I like Lady Gaga. Okay? I like all types of music. I like Madonna. You know, I couldn't care less what. That's punk rock. Punk rock is saying, F you, I'll listen to what I want to listen to. And if you don't like it, well, you're the one that's narrow-minded.
I mean, mashallah, we've got so much we've said already, mashallah, brother Celt, that's going to get us refuted by the extremist Islamists and the extremist punk rockers over there. And on the subject, I mean, on the subject of Green Day was my introduction to proper punk rock, and then later on, as I did more research, I got into, as you mentioned, the Ramones, the Clash. Oh, by the way, talking about the Clash, do you really think they sold out, or were they just experimenting with sound?
Right, Clash are another band that I'm close to in a very bizarre way. Allah seems to put me in with people who are connected in one way or another. My drummer, for example, his sister was the girlfriend of Joe Strummer. In fact, he has Joe Strummer's trousers at home. You know,
Allahu Akbar.
yeah, you won't believe it. And he grew up with them. He learned how to drum by hanging around with those guys. They didn't sell out. No, they were honest guys. They were good guys, just honest guys that wanted to give you a good time and enjoy music. You know, and sometimes you've got to play the game a bit. So they did play the game, but I don't think they sold out. I think it wouldn't be fair to say they sold out, because that's not fair. No, that's a misunderstanding of who they are. Again, jealousy. So people were jealous of the Clash because they were bloody good.
Absolutely.
And they did an amazing dub album, you know, with Mikey Dread. It's phenomenal. Clash are a great band. I love the Clash. You know, the Clash are better than the Sex Pistols, and I love the Sex Pistols, but they were better.
I mean,
the Sex Pistols looked better, that's all. But the Sex Pistols are really a plagiarist version of the Stooges. They were copying Iggy Pop.
Oh, wow. I mean, Brother Kel, don't tell me that you know John Lydon as well, because if he's going to watch this, I have no idea what he's going to say to you. So do you know John Lydon, first of all?
I don't know John Lydon, but Cuzzy, a good friend of mine, is the drum tech and has been for nearly 20 years.
Wow.
So yeah, I know those circles, but to be honest, I couldn't be bothered. I've rubbed shoulders with all types of famous people. It doesn't interest me. You know, it's very rarely I'll get excited by meeting somebody. In fact, I was very excited when I met Steve Hillage from System 7 and Gone. And I thought, you know, and I said to him, I said, thank you so much for what you've done with music. And inspired us. We're here because of you, man. You know, and such a beautiful man he is. And he's still banging it. He's doing raves. He's 70 years old. Him and his wife are doing massive raves, doing psychedelic trance music. He's old, still playing guitar. It's like, wow, what a legend. And I love Hawkwind. I'm a big Hawkwind fan. You know, psychedelic rock is a big thing for me as well. And that's another thing that people don't realize about punk, is that, you know, the punk scene was also driven by the psychedelic rock scene. You know, they were listening to Hawkwind and bands like that, Iron Butterfly, and all these mad experimental bands. Arthur Brown, you know, he was quite punk rock in his day. But yeah, I do love me punk and me metal. I love all types of music, but yeah, punk is definitely one that drives me. It drives me now at the moment. You know, the music that I'm writing at the moment is very kind of, you know, punk energy. And the type of crowds that come or I play to is that kind of alternative scene. So, you know, they like to hear a bit of metal sound, industrial, dark, moody.
I mean, this is, in a way, this interview already has become so surreal, Brother Celt, because I had a hunch that there were other Muslims with similar music tastes to mine. I had just never met one in the flesh. And okay, technically this is not in the flesh, but to see someone who has got a similar music taste, which, look, even by secular as in non-Islamic standards, not a lot of people are into punk because it's not pop, it's not rap, and it's not hip hop. And that's one of the things that made me an outlier growing up, is that I was always into Green Day and everyone else would be into, I don't know, Eminem or something. And I'm not saying that's necessarily bad, it's just that my preference were aligned that way. But Brother Celt, speaking about all your interactions with famous people, rubbing shoulders with famous people, and he actually mentioned to me before we started recording live that he has played at Glastonbury. Is there ever a point where you say that, look, music may not be haram, and there's nothing wrong with indulging in this primordial, beautiful experience? However, this environment that music is played in, even if it's completely halal music, is not one that I feel comfortable in being a Muslim. For example, Glastonbury. I mean, okay, it's Glastonbury, and yeah, do I need to say any more? But at the same time, what about all those people who are just stoned and drunk out of their minds, and all these after parties where it's basically just, I'm assuming, drugs, sex, and rock and roll. So how do you navigate that? How was it playing at Glastonbury?
I'd love to know where all the sex, drugs, and rock and roll is, because that's just a bloody fairy tale.
Oh,
it really is. Yeah, people take drugs, but to be honest, I mean, like Glastonbury, it's probably one of the safest festivals you could ever go to. Because only good folks go there. It doesn't attract idiots.
Wow.
An idiot won't want to go to Glastonbury. Why would they want to spend £200, £300 or £500 in going to that festival for 4 or 5 days and muddying it out? Nah. Idiots don't do that. So it's interesting at festivals. It brings a certain type of person. So, and with Glastonbury, that's probably the safest festival I've ever been to. And I played Glastonbury on and off for over 10 years, the past 10 years. I played practically every year for the past 10 years. And in those years alone, I've seen how it's progressed, and it's, in fact, when inshallah, when my sons get older, and that's when I'm taking them, they're going to Glastonbury, because it's amazing. And it's a myth that everyone's off their face. No, they're not. No, they're not. When you go to a big experience, the things about Glastonbury, it's like they build this city in the middle of the countryside in a valley, which is miles. When you stand at the top and look at it, you think, what am I looking at here? It's incredible. And it's really like, Glastonbury's like half a dozen festivals thrown into one. So one side, you've got all the commercial, the TV stuff that you see on TV, that's on one side. And then the other side, it all gets weirder and weirder and more interesting. I'm right at the other side of the festival where it's 18 plus. And that's where you get your punk bands, your industrial, your hip hop, your drum and bass, heavy alternative dance music. And it's amazing. It's great. In fact, that's probably one of the last places in Britain we can really taste what a rave was like. It's the closest thing. And it's safe as Glastonbury, because there's a good police presence, and they're not bullies, and the security, and people are allowed to kind of like be free. They obviously hard drugs, they'll arrest you and throw you out, but people who are smoking weed or having beers, they just leave alone. I've yet to see a fight at Glastonbury. There used to be years ago when it was crazy and free. That was different. That was a different kind of Glastonbury. Whereas now, there's like 2 massive iron fences all the way around, security. It's It's a safe environment. I think it's a great environment because there's so many different types of music at Glastonbury. You could just go and watch world music all week. Bands from Africa, bands from South America, Arabic bands, Pakistani bands, Chinese acts. You know, people from all around the world play Glastonbury. It's a phenomenal experience. I always tell people, please taste it once in your life. Go to Glastonbury. You know, like you go to Hajj once in your life. It's similar. You know, Hajj is different for Allah. It's, you know, but Glastonbury is an experience, and you meet new people, new friends. There's the Glastonbury where they do zikr every night, whirling dervishes, and people come and join. You know, take shahada there and stuff. You know, when I was last there a couple of years ago, and I broke my hand, it was still a bit sore, and I met this one guy there, and he says, how's your hand, brother? I can see it's, you know, you keep, you know, it's wrapped up, because I had it wrapped up. I said, yeah, I broke my hand. He said, come here, sit down. And he started reciting the Quran to me, and I looked at him and he looked at me, and then afterwards he says, I bet you didn't know, did you? I said, I had absolutely no idea you were Muslim. He says, you know, Allah puts us all in strange places at the right time. And I was like, no way. This guy from nowhere just looked like any other average English guy, and he was Muslim. You know, and you know, so what a wonderful thing. If anything, that Glastonbury meant meeting him.
I mean, there you have it, folks. You heard it straight from Brother Celt Islam. Go to Glastonbury at least once in your life, because you've just given me all the motivation to, when this madness of the pandemic is over, to definitely check it out. But on that topic, do you think that there are places of genuine vice where music is played? And would you be comfortable playing in such a place? Like, if, for example, in your punk, if I was making punk rock music, for example, and they said, why don't you come down to this pub down in London or something, where, you know, people are just getting stoned to play your music, would you be comfortable in doing something like that? And why or why not? Because a pub is definitely
of course. I mean, I grew up in a pub. My father was a pub landlord. So I know what pub life is. And but yeah, you know, why not? It's my culture. It's something I totally familiar with. You know, people who don't have pub culture won't understand it. You know, it's as simple as that, really. You know, so in some people's minds, they would think it would be haram for them, but not for me. Why? Why would it be? You know, I'm going there to be in a public space to play music. You know, I have done. In fact, I played to the Hells Angels.
Allah. Wow.
You know, I'll tell you a story here. I got booked to do this club. It was like a pub converted into a club type of thing, yeah? And we turned up, and I had this rap act as well, my friend's band. They're like a punk rap kind of outfit. And I had two guys from Jamaica, dancehall MCs. And one of them was an older gentleman that had been in Britain since the 60s. And the other guy was younger, had only been in England a few years. Anyway, this place got packed, absolutely packed, full of bikers, a lot of them Hells Angels. And anyway, we did this gig, and about halfway through, I mean, it kicked off, it was amazing, but halfway through, because I have like intervals sometimes between tracks, you know. And anyway, this guy stood up and shouted, "Oi, Abdul!" shouting at me. He said, "We don't effing listen to this music, but we effing do now." And the whole place just went mental. And afterwards, I was mobbed. And people were like, so you're Muslim then? Are you English, are you? I said, and you're Muslim? I said, yeah. So I could be a Muslim then? This big Hell's Angel guy comes to me. I said, yeah, you could be a Muslim if you wanted. He said, bloody hell, I didn't know that. I thought it was just Paki. I thought it was to do with Pakis, you know, because that's what these English people say, you know. I said, no, it's not to do with Pakistanis. They are Muslim as well, but there's Pakistani Christians. Oh, bloody hell, well, I didn't know that. And anyway, and we had amazing conversations. They asked me back again. So I did another gig. Now I got there earlier before Maghrib, so I could set the sound system up, everything. And I thought, right, it's Maghrib time. I went into the beer garden. Right in the corner was facing Mecca. I thought, right, that's me. Goes to do my Maghrib. And here's this guy going, what the effing hell's he doing? And then I heard this other voice saying, sit yourself down, lad. That's our Muslim. So you better shut up. And when I'd finished doing the prayer, there was these bikers, these Hells Angels guys, stood around me, smiling, and said, you're all right, lad. You're one of us. And that was it, you know. And so I'd shown them Islam in a way that never been represented before. And they not only accepted me, but they respected me, and they even protected me from an idiot that could have potentially caused me harm, because some of these bikers you don't mess with. You know, so it's all by Allah, you know. And it was such a great gig. We had an amazing gig. You know, they made us play for almost another hour afterwards. So it was a lock-in. Let's stay in. Let's carry on raving. You know, and they keep begging me back even now. I said, I'll come back again one day.
I mean, Allahu Akbar, what a story about giving da'wah in a literal club to the Hells Angels of all people. I mean, some of the people at Hyde Park are going to scratch their heads when I cut this clip out. They're like, hey, we've been doing da'wah shouting at people in the park, and this guy's been playing music, and he still got them interested in Islam and, you know, interested in protecting a Muslim. So, mashallah, we've got so much already that we put out there to give everyone who wants to refute us an ability to refute us. But talking about refutations and da'wah, so Brother Celt, maybe we should have started with this, but we were just being a bit more spontaneous with the whole thing. What got you interested in Islam anyway? You said your father was the landlord of a pub. So how do you go from that to having an interest in finding out about the Quran and the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam? Because it's kind of, you know, when people look at it, it's like they have cognitive dissonance. So how did you end up going through that?
Well, you know, I suppose ultimately it was through my mother. I was raised with my father, and when I was about 7 or 8, my mum converted to Islam. And so throughout my childhood, I knew my mum was Muslim. And I would ask questions and she'd answer me, but she never preached. She would never preach to me, if you know what I mean. She was mum, and you got to remember, I grew up with my dad. So when I got to see mum, it was a special occasion, you know. So, and it wasn't until I was about 13 I really got into it. I thought, I'm interested in this. And then when I was 15, that's when I actually decided, well, not decided, I knew I was Muslim. But it wasn't until I was 17 that I took the Shahada. But it was through my mother and my stepfather, because my mother later on married my stepfather, who's from the Maldives. And he's a well-educated alim and studied in Medina for 9 years. In fact, was a student of Bin Baz, a close student. So my early Islam was very much that kind of like Saudi Salafi Islam, but it was interesting because it wasn't what Saudi Salaf. Well, it wasn't what I saw. What became later as Salafis, modern day Salafis. You know, I saw something happen in the late 80s and 90s. There was a big shift. But my dad's with my dad. I call him my dad, you see. So, but with my dad, he kind of left all that behind, and he ended up becoming a social worker and helping people in another way. But he was the Imam of Green Lane Mosque in Birmingham, which is the most notorious Salafi mosque in Britain. Or was. But yeah, you know, so but he always kind of pushed me towards the Sufi thing, although he had a lot of doubts and qualms with Sufism. He knew it would be safe for me, because that's where my mother had embraced Islam through the Sufis from Norwich, through Sheikh Abdul Qadir's people, and that's how I got to meet Sheikh Abdul Qadir, you see. So that's where my Sufi journey began. I'm still on it. I haven't finished.
So could you tell us? Yeah. No, I was just going to say, could you tell us more about Sheikh Abdul Qadir al-Sufi? But I'm guessing you're going to do that anyway.
Yeah. I met Sheikh Abdul Qadir when I was 17, and I ended up going to live with him when he was based in Granada in Spain. Because for years he ended up leaving Granada and living in South Africa for years.
Oh wow!
In Cape Town. Now he's retired in France. But I met Sheikh Abdul Qadir when I was 17, and it was an interesting experience, you know, meeting somebody like that and the type of person that he is. I've even to this day, I still find him intriguing because I've yet to meet somebody like him, and I've met all types of folk, but he is quite unique. Sheikh Abdul Qadir is he's very unique. He's eccentric, which I love, and I don't even agree with a lot of the things that he says sometimes, but I still adore him and love him, you know. And I suppose the fact that he's Scottish, British, that gives me a sense of pride as well, of kind of like, you know, somebody from my Celtic heritage, Allah's placed among us, our people. So, but yeah, very intriguing character, and he's changed many times. Sheikh Abdul Qadir throughout his life, it's changed this way, that way, this way, and I like that because that's how I've been. You know, I ended up leaving the community and coming back years later. But when I'd left, I ended up becoming a Shia. I ended up hanging around the Shias. I thought, right, this is for me. This I like this Shiism, and it didn't end up being for me, but I still love Shias. I hate that hate between Sunni Shia, that Sunni Shia divide. I don't like it. I think people should just ditch it now. Sunni should go to Shia mosque and Shia go Sunni mosque. Just ditch it, man. You know, I know you've got your differences, fine. You know, there's probably more differences amongst certain Sufis than there is between Sunni and Shia, to be honest. Really, you know, to me, Shiism is like Sufism. You know, it's a lineage, a teaching, and it's ultimately about trying to be a good Muslim. You know, the rest is just sectarianism. You know, and you're going to get it anyway. Human beings are always sectarian. What, some people are socialist, some people are conservative, some people are liberal. It's human beings for you. Some Muslims are going to be Shia and some are going to be Sunni. Get used to it. I like it, in fact. I like a little bit of Shiism. I think it's healthy. I think Sunnis need to maybe, do something on the Shura now and again. It doesn't have to be every year, but they should definitely, recall that story and learn from it. There's things to learn from. And just the barakah of remembering Hussein, for God's sake. It's Prophet's grandson, I think that's important in itself. If Shiism only exists just to preserve his memory, so be it. But there's so many Sunni sects, there's so many Shia sects. They're not all the same, but the majority, we've all got the same. we pray the same, we do the same. There's only slight differences. I studied the schools of thought, and Shiism is very, in many respects, very close to Maliki fiqh, and the Hanifi parts are what's left behind from when they were Hanifis. And Shafis before, like doing their Nafil prayer, sat down and stuff. But yeah, it's I love it, mate. I'm happy. I'll go in any mosque. Bismillah. And I don't ask people what they believe. It's rude.
Yeah.
Some people do it with me. Oh, what do you believe in? Where are you from? And I'm total Sufi. I'll say I'm from Allah. Where have you come from? From Allah. No, but where are you really from? Well, because I'm white. That's what you're trying to say to me, innit? Where am I from? I'm not Bosnian. Because people used to say, oh, we're Bosnian. They say, oh, you look Bosnian. Oh, it's because I'm white, is it? I could never be English, could I?
So there you have it, folks. It's not just us Asian or Arab looking people. Even the white guys get it. So Muslims, get your act together, because I don't know what this is. Reverse psychology. You've been going through this for so many years now. You're doing it to the white guy. So yeah, it is what it is.
I mean, to be honest, I've probably had more racial abuse from Muslims than I have from non-Muslims. That's a fact. In fact, it's a fact, is that? Yeah. I would definitely say I've been racially abused more from Muslims than people who aren't Muslim. And shame on you. Shame. Because, not all us whiteys are the same. And I'm not one of these types of people, oh, I don't see colour. Rubbish. Of course I see colour. And I like it. I love different types of people. That's what makes it so beautiful. I've transcended beyond all that. I look beyond the form, the outward form. I see the inner form. That can radiate when you're talking to somebody. Getting to know them. Forget what's this colour or hairstyle you've got or whatever. People too quick to judge, aren't they?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So talking about hairstyle, I think I'll just bring my ponytail to the fore. But yeah, mashallah. So
typical punk rocker. That's a modern punk rocker. So many punks I know grow their hair nowadays.
Oh yeah.
Sad anymore.
Yeah.
He can
I know.
I mean, yeah. If it's modern punk rock, then I've got more reason to wear it on Pride. Because when I was in school, I actually had it wasn't a full mohawk, but it was definitely spiky up there. And yeah, maybe later on after this, because I don't know where those pictures are, but I'll show you some of my pictures from back in those days. And yeah, I mean, I went from that to, as people tell me, looking like Jesus at the moment. But it is what it is. So anyway, yeah, about the whole Muslims being racially abusive, I can empathize with you, because even in my own life, and this is me as a born Muslim, an African of Asian descent, and of course, I mean, I only know about my family until like my grandparents' generation. I'm sure, 90% sure that I've got some mixed heritage somewhere up there as well. However, as a born Muslim, I've also received abuse mostly from Muslims in my life. And it's sometimes got to do with some absolutely stupid things, such as me not shaving my mustache. And that is an actual thing. I'm not making that up. It's an actual thing. People have an issue with the fact that I grow my beard and don't shave my mustache. I do keep it short and out of my face, but no, because I don't shave it, they have to tell me off about it. And from that, and to recently about my hairstyle, or wearing earrings and stuff like that. So how do you keep your sanity amongst all this? And is it the fact that you have been convinced that Islam is true, that you're not going to go out of Islam anytime soon, so you don't care what these mozzies have to say?
There's a saying attributed to Imam Ali, which is when he was returning from a battle, and some cowards had run off. And the Prophet had asked him, why did you not run off? And he said, how can one commit kufr when you've had Iman?
Allah.
And that struck a chord with me. And it meant something deeper. It meant that once you've truly got Iman, there's no going back. It's inconceivable. It don't, if somebody says to me, oh, well, you might make your mind up and leave Islam. Well, I embraced Islam in 1989.
Oh,
so, no. For you to even say that to me is, you've belittled me and ridiculed me for who I really am. This is who I am. And I'm going to sin, I'm going to make mistakes. I'm a human being. But my Iman is there for life. It's eternal. Once you've had a closeness with, how can I say, a kind of closeness with Allah, it's unbreakable. It's inconceivable. It's like when I've taken LSD, that takes me even more closer. I'm like, subhanallah, and things come to me, and thoughts and inspirations and such amazing things. I mean, I haven't taken LSD that many times. I probably count on one hand, to be honest, but each time that I'd experienced something like that, it didn't take me away. But yeah, when your Iman is solid, once you've been burnt by Allah's flame as such, some Sufis would say, that's it, you're scarred for life. Once you're a lover, that's it, there's no leaving. And I suppose I've always been spiritual, even when I was a kid. Ever since I can remember, I've always been spiritual, always. And religion has always fascinated me. And I feel comfortable. I like to go in synagogue and churches and Hindu temples. I love it. I love it. It all gives me something.
I mean,
I see Allah's face in it all, if you know what I mean. It's metaphorically speaking, that's how I see it.
Of course. Yeah, of course. And that sounds so Sufi, but automatically, for a while now I've been seeing this. You've automatically upgraded yourself to being my most controversial guest, because I'm sure someone's going to send me a death threat after this. But, Allahu Akbar, it's all in the service of Allah.
Yeah, Allahu Akbar.
Yeah.
Allah is the knower. Allah is the knower of all things. I am just a human being. I'm nothing.
Absolutely.
And Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, he was the best of creation. And we try and aspire to be as much as we can to be like him, you know, in our daily lives. And I think this is where some Muslims get it wrong. They think, oh, we must replicate the lifestyle of the 7th century. And it's like, no, it's much more deeper than that. And you know, there's a hadith. They are the hadiths about the end of times. You know, and just having a bit of Iman is enough. But whether these hadiths are true or not, I think what's being said there is that just don't worry. You know, don't worry and just believing in Allah and His Messenger will be probably enough, because the fitna of the days will be too much. I mean, today, the days we're living in now are so bizarre. You know, in fact, your Dajjal conspiracy theorists are loving it. They're raking it in. And I was into all that stuff years ago. The whole Dajjal thing, the Mahdi, Imam Mahdi, all that stuff. And I ditched it. I thought, it's not serving me any purpose here. It's all a bit doom and gloomy. And since I ditched all that stuff, I look at the world differently now. And I think, well, you know, if there is going to be an imam that comes in the future, so be it. But I've got to live my life now. You know, and just try my best I can as a simple human being, and just alhamdulillah that I embraced, and that Allah gave me that gift of getting to know Him in a better way, you know. And that's why I like Mufti Abu Layth. You know, he speaks my language too. The things he says, you know,
You're
I've been saying
it. You're doing it, mashallah.
Doing it, totally doing it. But he's ace, you know, and I don't agree with everything he says. And but you know, that's why I like him. I like people I don't agree with. That's great. It's healthy. You can't agree with everything. I mean, you know, I like tea. Some people like coffee. I like tea and coffee.
SubhanAllah. Yeah, I'm a coffee connoisseur, at least I'd like to think.
Yeah,
so.
me too. I do drink a lot of coffee. But that's what Sufis do. They're known for it. Especially in our Sufi Tariqa. We're big coffee drinkers. And my sheikh always told me, got to have the best coffee.
Allah.
So, you know.
I mean, mashallah, that's great. And you mentioned conspiracy theories. This is one question I always posit to people who try to reel me into their gang of people who believe in conspiracies. Because even as recently as maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago, I had someone send me something about this whole pandemic being planned, and the vaccine is going to inject some 5G chip into us so Bill Gates can monitor us, or something like that. All right. Obviously, I dismissed it, and I sent him a podcast of Mowadou Tal, who is one of the students of Mufti Abu Layth. And if you go and check it out, it's the Malcolm Effect. It's called COVID Conspirators. So in this podcast, he had a graduate of pharmacology who also has a degree in Islamic studies. His name is Ridwan Rahman, and he's doing his current, I think he's doing a master's in medicine or something like that. So this guy knows what he's talking about. They went through the whole thing of what is a virus, how did we get to where we are now, why is the UK so messed up with the lockdowns that were not as effective, and everything was gone through. They even debunked the whole 5G thing. But then this guy, and you know, this is when I could see that he was just insecure about his own opinion. It wasn't down to facts or anything, because in response to that one clip that I sent him, he sent me 11 messages back. And you know, I just tried to reason with the guy. Obviously, I'm not sure how effective it was in hindsight. But I tried to say that, look, if that's the conclusion you're reaching, what's the problem if I reach a different conclusion? And why the hell must I go through 11 videos of varying lengths, Not all of them are in English, some of them are in Urdu, which I do speak, but I'm not that proficient at. Why the hell must I go through all of that just to come to your conclusion? I mean, I can look at something and say this is ridiculous and dismiss it altogether, but he was just being absolutely insecure about it. So that is my gripe with conspiracy theories, is that, I'm not opposed to all of them. I mean, I'm sure that some of them just allow you to think about things in a different way, which is healthy. But what is the end game? What do you want us to do after that? So what if this pandemic is planned? What am I supposed to do here in Botswana? I mean, what are we supposed to? I don't get it. What's the way forward? But at the same time, I noticed on your YouTube channel that you're subscribed to a person named Skiro Skouras. I hope I said his name right. He's an independent journalist and so on and so forth. And funny enough, one of the videos that guy sent me was of this Skiro Skouras and how he had this whole thing of, before the pandemic, there was some meeting of the WHO and they did a simulation, blah, blah, blah. Of course, it wasn't conclusive, which even Skiro Skouras, he said that, this is probably not conclusive, come to your own conclusions. But yeah, I think what I was going to say there is, what exactly do you follow from that guy? I mean, is it just the alternative aspects of looking at situations, or do you think that there might be
what
something
I like
else?
to do, well, what it is, I like to know what these idiots are saying. Because
Okay,
I can't argue their against their points if I don't know what they're saying. So with David Icke, I'll listen to David Icke and filter out the bull crap that he's talking and seeing what's going down. I'm one of these that likes to analyze things, and I like to see both or more than one opinion on something. But I'm very interested in the conspiracy thing because I'm seeing how it's being used to manipulate people, and how also a lot of conspiracy theories do have elements of truth.
Yes.
And what better to debunk the truth than to give you the little bit of it and then add all this extra nonsense on top. And then, so if, like Palestine, for example, you have to be careful about talking about Palestine. If I start talking about Palestine on Facebook, my Facebook gets closed down. It has been. So, and when David Icke's talking about the bankers and who controls the world, the bankers, he's bloody correct. But then when he starts veering off on all this stupid bloodline lizard nonsense, it's just like, Jesus, man, you've lost the plot. Do you know what it is about David Icke?
What is it?
Number one, he is a plagiarist through and through. Everything he says is already in public domain. Has already been said before. And the second thing about David Icke, he has zero solutions. None. So straight away he's dodgy. He is making a lot of money. And I think he's deluded. I actually think he's deluded. I think he may be even suffer from some kind of mental health issue. Because the things that he comes out with at times, it's embarrassing. Seriously. And when I saw him gave the speech in London, it was just embarrassing. The way he was presenting himself. And he didn't actually really sell. That was what was interesting. What did it actually really say? No. So, no, he's a distraction.
Absolutely.
That's what he is. He's a distraction. And like all these, Illuminati. I've got an Illuminati t-shirt. I wear it, silver with the eye. Wow. And I give it this me all the time.
Allahu Akbar.
I have friends who are Freemasons.
Mm.
You know, I know one of my dearest friends, he was paid by the Freemasons to tour America to give dower events to teach people about the beauty of Islam, so they can get lost about all this Freemason Satan stuff. Freemasonry is a fraternity, a brotherhood fraternity of knowledge and spirituality. Yes, they are lodges that just deal with business, but true Freemasonry, no, it's like Sufi brotherhood. And that you can go in any lodge, they'll take you around, show you everything. You know, the lodge that he went to in America, he showed me the photographs. They have the Quran in Arabic, they have the Torah, they have the Bible. You know, you know, there's a lot of misinformation, and what it is, ignorant people, gullible people, intellectually challenged people will believe anything, and that's what's happened. You know, the old Illuminati from 200 years ago don't exist. That's just a bunch of dudes that used to call themselves the Illuminati. It just became a big money marketing ploy.
Yeah,
like Scientology.
Yeah, what a comparison there. And yeah, I mean, you're talking about Illuminati. First of all, you've got some guts wearing that t-shirt. I mean, I get into trouble just because I do this. And, you know, I've been doing this since I was in school, and then obviously in the middle I stopped because apparently it's a devil's sign or something. And then Mufti Abu Layth does it as well. So I'm like,
Yeah.
you know what?
The school
This
of
is the
Medina.
international sign of rock. And
Hell
some people
yeah.
call it the devil's horns, and some people call it the bull's horns. It actually originates from ancient Mesopotamia and Greece. It was
wow.
like a signal, like a thumbs up. You go thumbs up. You know, in Roman times when you were, you know, a gladiator, was it thumbs up or thumbs down? Are you going to die? But this was like, it was a greeting. The bull's horns. It's ancient, is this? It's ancient. It's just, you know, so what? Devil's horns, there we are. Up yours. If you think it's there's pictures of me doing it, and people used to slag me off years ago. We're just it's a bit of fun. It's not, you know what I mean?
It is. And I don't know whether it's disheartening or whether it's just plain funny, but I've seen Muslims on Instagram and like, you know, saying that we should prevent our children from watching Spider-Man because he does this, you know, when
Because
he
his web
actually does the thing. And also there's that one Tom and Jerry movie where they did some really weird things, like Tom and Jerry were actually making sajda to some guy who came out of a pyramid or something weird like that. So
I mean, when you look at these things,
yeah, I mean, when you take bits and pieces from here and there, and then you kind of make it into this big package, which kind of sounds plausible. I mean, would you say that there are elements of truth? Because look, I don't think it's a disputed fact that there are idiots in the world who actually do worship Satan or what they think to be Satan, and they do some really funny things and so on and so forth. But coming to it from the Islamic perspective, is the devil even a being, or is Shaitan, Iblis, whatever you want to call him, something, as Mufti Abu Layth explains it, I'm not sure I can do justice to that explanation, you know, insinuations, as in the devil is not a little red being with horns over there, but the devil kind of, you know, if you look at that hadith that he flows through your veins and so on and so forth. I mean, if you could read it in that way, I'm not a scholar. I'm saying that the way Mufti Abu Layth explains is that it could be read as something that is not a being, but something that boils down to insinuations. Is that making sense?
For me, You know, I remember one of my Sufi teachers from Bosnia. He was a dervish master, Khalil, and he said to me, "The shaitan is under your bloody fingernails, man." And I said, "You what?" He said, "Shaitan is under your fingernails." I remember looking at my fingernails and him hitting me with his stick. He said, "Don't be stupid." And he explained to me that shaitan has more than one meaning. It can also mean something that's impure.
Oh wow. SubhanAllah.
That it doesn't necessarily mean the Iblis. I think I do believe Iblis exists. Allah says it exists. Iblis does exist. But this is the trick of Iblis. Is getting you to believe that he's omnipresent. Is not.
Yeah.
Allah is the all-seeing, all-knowing, not the Iblis.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and you know, I remember my own Sheikh Abdul Qadir, say, you know, explaining things that, you know, he says on about how people blame the shaitan and everything. You know, the world's in a mess because of the shaitan. And he says, stop thinking like this. The world's in a mess because of the bankers.
Yeah.
That's the fact. It's economics. And if that's a shaitan, that's the one you should be fighting, not this being that Allah's already got sorted. So, you know, it's kind of like, yeah. Well, you see, the thing, this is it. Some Muslims are highly superstitious.
That's the thing. Yeah.
Ridiculously. And it's a form of shirk.
Absolutely.
I do not. I don't believe in any form of superstition. None. And I will do things purposely. All these so-called things you're not supposed to do because they're superstitious. I'll do it just to prove a point. Yeah, and in fact, Sufis do that in Africa. They'll hit the baobab tree, and you know they go crazy. Oh, what are you doing? The jinni will come out and get you, and he'll say no, because there is no jinni there. That's just a tree.
Oh.
You know, so, but you know, yeah, superstition, it's ridiculous. And you know, to the point where I've had people flapping at my trousers in prayer line. Achi, roll your trousers up because your ankles will burn in hellfire. You stupid man. That's what I say to them. Are you stupid you are? How you dare say that? I'll just say, you're stupid, keep away from me. I'm not interested in your fairy tale, mumbo jumbo. If you think you're going to go to hellfire because your trouser legs are too low, you belittle the deen, you belittle the prophet, you belittle the law. Yes, subhanallah. And I could go on about many things. Oh, your beard's not long enough, you know, or you haven't got a beard. I could go on. Yeah. Oh, you've been eating with your left hand. The shaitan eats with his. We don't eat with our left hand because we wipe our backsides with it. Duh. You know what I mean? Yeah. You don't want to eat with your hand that you wipe your backside with, do you? Not unless you have to. There is such a thing as soap and water, like you can't clean it.
Yeah.
And I mean this superstition thing can be looked at from a broader lens. That one of the problems that at least I believe the Muslims face in today's time is that instead of looking to the teachings of Islam or what Islam was supposed to mold you into as a human being, they look at Islam as a sort of tribal thing. Like, we dress a certain way, we speak a certain language, and of course, look, yeah, some things can be tribal, like we don't drink alcohol, we stay away from pork. enough people do that in one community, they kind of bunch together. Okay, that's understandable. So some things may inevitably lead to tribal affiliations if you put them like that. But then, the thing that we have to look the same, we have to speak the same, and then anyone who does otherwise is not amongst us. How do we navigate this problem?
Yeah, tribalism and yeah. Well, again, it's kind of human nature. People like to put themselves in little groups and have their own style of turban. I mean, when I wrap a turban, I wrap it like a Shia, like an Ayatollah, and that pisses them off as much as it freaks out Sunnis. And I'll say, you don't own this turban, mate. It's just a turban. Yeah. And I like its style. I like how it's wrapped. So wonderful. And it's an old style that you don't see much. There were many styles of turbans. The Hindustanis were amazing for turbans. Very few of them know how to do them now. The Mughal style turban. You show me one person who can tie a Mughal turban. And they're beautiful to look at. And it's an art form. Absolutely. It's a real art. You've got to twist it in a certain way, fold it in a certain way, and it looks so majestic.
Absolutely.
But yeah, just people I mean, uniformity. Some people love uniformity. They love gangs. They love being part of a group. A fan base, a cult, and that's. And when I became Muslim, there were lots of other converts, and they were all dressed like Arabs and Pakistanis, and they were like trying to force me to wear that stuff. Oh, but it's Sunnah, brother. It's Sunnah. They kept saying to me, and I'm like, well, I don't know what do you mean? It's Sunnah. Well, the Prophet used to wear it like this. I'm like, well, did he? Because when I look in the descriptions of the Prophet, he ain't wearing out anything you're wearing. And where's your boots to start with? He didn't just wear sandals all the time. Wore boots too. He had long hair, short hair. It's when Shuaib Rumi became Muslim, he was a Roman. He had blonde hair, blue eyes, wore Roman clothes. The Prophet didn't say, "Oi, mate, Sunnah, you better put these flipping salwar kameez on." No, he still wore Roman clothes. And same with the, what do they call it? Salman Farsi. He wore Persian clothes. And the Prophet said, can you translate it into Persian? So they can read it. So, it's not Islam's not a fashion. The Prophet loved culture. He loved different people's cultures. Islam is not something that's come to destroy culture. No. Culture's part of our fitra, of who we are. And the Prophet used to address people from where they came from. Oh, Shuaib al-Rumi, the Roman. Salman al-Farsi, the Persian.
The Persian.
He's praising where they came from. And he didn't call people akhin. He raised them up. He'd call them from where they came from. Oh, Al-Farsi is here. Or Abu Sulaiman is here. He would, oh, here is Ibn Ali. The son of Ali is here. He didn't say, oh, Akhi's here. Because this Akhi thing, it got daft. Where I saw guys mouthing off at like elder intellectuals, calling them Akhi and making themselves look stupid. And it's like, come on.
No.
The dean's about raising us higher. Let's give each other something.
Absolutely.
Let's bring the best out of each other and celebrate who we are as people. That's why, Celt Islam, I'm called Celt Islam because firstly I was given this name by one of my drummers and the founders of the first band that I was in. And he said, "Oh, Celt Islam, that needs to be your name," because I was going to DJ one night. And I was like, I need a DJ name. What can I come up with? I was having a laugh. And he went, Celt Islam, because you're Celtic and you're Muslim. I was like, perfect, Mick. Mick Reed, his name is, bless him, great guy. And so I thought, yeah, I'm going to take this on, this Celt Islam thing, and to show people that you can be Celtic, you can be European, and be Muslim. So so it's a kind of like, it's at times it's been a good factor in my life, and at times it's been a bad factor. Whenever Muslims are put in a bad light in the media, I get less bookings.
Allah.
Yeah, I do. It does happen. I have suffered from Islamophobia big time. I get attacked by bigots, and people try and destroy my reputation as well as a musician because they see me as a threat musically and spiritually, and because they're intellectually and spiritually challenged, see me as a threat. Especially when they're connected to Israel, because there's a lot of people in the music industry connected to Israel. Yeah, and that's not a conspiracy theory; it's true. Especially the trans scene, they're owning it, and and to be honest, most of them are wonderful people. They're not Zionists, but still, amongst them, I've had problems. I've had Zionists give me death threats, all types of stuff. That one guy was going to shoot me on stage. I had one of the biggest drum and bass management companies in the world wanted to sign me. I wrote something about Palestine, and he wrote me back one of the most filthiest, disgusting letters I've ever read. And it turned out he was a Zionist. So that ruined my reputation in the drum and bass world. So, you have to be careful what you say these days. And to be honest, I've kind of changed since those days. I don't fully agree with Mufti on the whole Israel-Palestine thing. I'm a believer that it should just be one state. Call it Israel-Palestine, Palestine-Israel. I think that's the only solution, is for them all to live together. But yeah, it's a crazy world, isn't it, brother?
Absolutely. And
but it's wonderful at the same time.
Yeah. I mean, that's what it means to be a human, I suppose. And yeah, I guess as Muslims, we also have to navigate this challenge with our faith and all those things. And yeah, Brother Celt, we've been going almost for 1.5 hours. And look, I wish we could go on for forever, honestly. But on my side, it's actually a so-called ungodly hour, as Mufti Abu Layth calls them.
1
a.m. ungodly hours. Well, inshallah, let's do another. Let's carry on.
Absolutely.
Whenever you're free again, let's have another chat, and let's talk about Egypt and ancient humans. Because I'm just kind of studying that at the moment, so it's interesting, all the different theories and different takes on the human history and stuff. So we could touch on that one.
We'd really love to learn about that from you as well. But if we could just close on these questions, since most of our discussions have been about music and obviously the thought processes around people who are into music. We spoke a little bit about LSD and psychedelics. So, okay, first question. And I asked this I didn't ask him directly, but when Brother James Hodkinson was on my podcast, we spoke a little bit about what could be haram music, and then kind of threw it out there that perhaps it contains profanity and stuff like that. So what's your take on profanity in music? Because it's kind of hard to find something out there these days that doesn't have the occasional F-bomb?
I don't see an issue with it. It's just common folk language. You know, the F word comes from the German word flicken, does it not? Which means to strike. So it actually isn't a swear word. If you want to get
turned it
down
into
to
one,
the
I guess.
Yeah, exactly. But who cares? You know, that's just the way. Look, people speak like that. They need to stop pretending that they're religious than thou, and that look, it's just language, and people express themselves through language. I think that I do think that some people overuse the word, which means their dialogue is somehow limited. But sometimes I use it all the time. Where's my effing watch? What the effing hell am I doing? You know, it's just the way it is. It's fun. You know, it's just part of.
People will say that you're a stereotypical Irishman now.
Well, yeah, but you know, that's how we are as Celtic folks. You know, we're honest, upfront, and you know, we speak harshly at times. You know, as a term of endearment, like calling each other the C word. You know, that's an endearment where I come from. Hey up, you ugly C word. Yeah, you're an ugly C and all. And yeah, great to see you. That's how we greet one another. It's just, well, you know, not always, but you know, we have, especially Northern British folk, we're known for our humour. We're known to take the mick out of one another. You know, taking. You know, we do it all the time, and it's just a form of of endearment. It's just playful, and I think it's healthy anyway. People get too uptight, and look at Americans. They say the F word and they're pulling guns out on you, idiots.
I think British humour in general is misunderstood by the rest of the world.
Yeah. Well, when I lived in Sweden, they were the only people I met in Europe that understood British humour, and they were really into it. But yeah, British humour is it's kind of unique in a sense because it's straightforward, and we are not afraid to take joke out of anything because it's just a joke.
Yeah.
You know, and if you're gonna get offended by a joke, then that's a problem with you. You know, so maybe that's why we ruled the world so well.
We just that was a joke. That was British humour. British humour 101.
Humor. I mean, you know, shall I tell you the secret to the British Empire?
Let us know. Let us know.
Our good humour. and sometimes the lack of it. No, but you know, in all honesty, what it is with British people is that we like to have a laugh. We like to have a good laugh, be happy, and you know, that's just the way we are. But I'll tell you one thing, you know, and I've travelled many countries. We are, for all the racism and prejudice that exists in the world, Britain's the least prejudiced place I've visited, and I'm proud to come from. Here, you can be what you want. You know, there's less racism here than there is in Europe. Gosh, you got places like Spain, Italy, France, Germany. Their racism's so blatant, they don't even realise they're racist. You know, it's terrible. I mean, when I was in Italy, the fascists everywhere. They think Mussolini was some great guy. You know, and that's quite common. That's not a joke. But British people, the majority of British people are fun-loving, and they're not prejudiced. They'll accept who you are. They will. It's only a small minority. You see this minority marching now and again, 20 of them now and again. Pakis out, Muslims out, all these idiots. We laugh at these idiots. You go to London, Manchester, all the big cities, you start saying racist things, you'll get beaten up. It's out in these outsticks place where they don't know anybody, where they're still stuck in the 70s and whatever. But these people are cool. I'm cool too. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And to end on that note, all people are cool. And it's just sometimes people fall for propaganda and misinformation. They're ignorant, but it's one of those things we have to fight against. It is racial prejudice and tribalism. That's why, what I love about Islam is that it recognizes that we're all one human family. That's it.
Absolutely.
We're all you, and what a wonderful thing that we're all different. Little things, all different foods and clothes and music, and that's how I want it. I don't want Attack of the Clones where everybody looks the same.
Yeah. Wow.
We call that. I mean, they tried that in China and Russia. It didn't work out, did it? And the Saudis have done it, and it's not working out for them, is it?
No, it doesn't look like it. No.
If you'd have gone to Arabia 100 years ago, before the Saudis were in, people wore beautiful clothes, turbans, earrings, amazing stuff. And now they're all look like clones, where there's no individuality no more.
Yeah.
And that's how you carefully control people. I think Saudi is quite a fascist society, if anything.
Yeah, adding on to controversial take after controversial take. And interesting enough about the whole identity thing, the last episode I did, which was just last week, it was about leaving Tabligh and the whole kind of backlash that, not exactly backlash that he faced, and how I'm at a similar crossroad, because I also kind of, when I became properly Muslim, if you can use it that way, Tabligh was kind of my go-to. But then very quickly I found out that if I keep going like this, I'm going to lose my own sense of identity.
Yeah.
So
is that the Tablighi Jamaat?
Yeah, that's one and the same.
You see, that's an interesting one, because I had a book about them years ago from a scholar who wrote a whole expose about them, how they started, who they were, and what it became. And if anything, they are the biggest anti-Dawah movement going, because they don't actually call people to the deen. They just call people from amongst their own ethnicity. It's heavily Indian subcontinent kind of culturally driven.
Yeah, that I can agree on. Yeah.
And there's some lovely people amongst them, don't get me wrong, but it's Islam dumbed down for simpletons. That's what it is. It's not progressing. It's a cult. It is a cult. And it does do some good, but it in all probably does more harm than good. I'd have them disbanded personally, because I've seen what they've done, how they belittle the deen, how they take everything literal. Their take on the Sunnah and the Hadith, it goes beyond the ludicrous.
Yeah.
And but you know, it's because, like I say, it's a dumbed down kind of like Jehovah's Witness type of form, Christianized form of Islam.
Interesting that we said the exact same thing in the episode when and I were discussing. I asked him if Jehovah's Witnesses was a valid comparison, and he said pretty much yeah, except that they go to Muslims exclusively instead of non-Muslims.
Yeah.
And, well,
you know, so and I mean, don't get me wrong, they are trying their best, but you know, when they're spending like £20,000 on a fake minaret or a fake dome for their mosque, and they still haven't sorted the toilet situation out, and there still isn't a room for women, then you begin to wonder what the hell is going on here.
Absolutely.
And you know, and especially you know, with the Deobandi law as well, the vast amount of money these people collect, where's it going?
Yeah.
And I mean, by law in Britain, they have to register themselves as charities and this, that, and the other, and they have to give tax and all that type of stuff. But still, I remember a mosque in Britain years ago, it got broken into, and the safe was bust, and they took a ridiculous amount of money. I think there was about £100,000 in there. There was a lot of money, a ridiculous amount. And I said, Alhamdulillah, I'm glad. I stood up, mate, in the mosque. I said, I'm glad. I said, how dare you keep all that money in there? What the hell are you doing with it? There's people in this community starving. They've got debts. Why aren't you helping them out? Where is zakat? The fallen pillar, zakat. They're going about zakat like it's charity. It's not. It's to be used. And part of zakat, of its usage, is for converts.
Absolutely, yeah.
And the amount of converts that I've met over the years, and even people that have left the deen as well because they've been abused and not been looked after. You know, so, but yeah, it's just all these groups like Tabligis and that. I just think it's just like it's not really serving a real. They're not establishing the deen. Your duty as a Muslim is to try and establish the deen in some way, shape, or form. And if there's a group of you, you must have an emir.
Yeah.
And collect zakat, and that zakat has to be used for stuff, you know. And I don't see it being, you know, everything's gone into kind of like committees. There's no true leadership. The imams are just paid. It's a career move. There's a lot of the imams are just. It's a career move. They're on a salary.
Yeah, they absolutely are.
You know, and they have to follow the line. And if they step out of line, they get sacked. The same situation with the Shia. It's exactly the same with them. Because you get progressive Shia imams that are like, oh, all this, you know, anti-Sunni stuff has to stop. You know, they'll quote, you know, some of the 12 Imams' hadiths about the virtues of Abu Bakr. Oh, that'll upset him. And then he'll get sacked. A similar thing happened, quite similar thing happened with my stepfather. You know, they were messing him about as well. And he, you know, he was being paid by the Saudi government. And he just realised, he thought, you know what, I'm just not having any of this. This is not what that I really wanted. It's not what it's about. But yeah, it's bizarre. And you see how well, I remember one time I was at a big Tablighi Jamaat meeting. There was probably about 300 people or so. And a load of us had come with some brothers from Spain. And the Emir, the Spanish Emir, he stood up and he said, he had a go at him. And he said, you know, I've not come over 1,000 miles to listen to this crap coming out of your mouth. How dare you belittle the Deen? How dare you belittle the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam? You should be rising yourselves up. And really laid into them and told them, you know what I mean, you know, what they should be doing with their lives and not just wasting it on, you know, 40 days Jamaat, brother. You know what I mean? What's this 40 days? 40 days fi sabilillah. Do you know what I used to say to him? I'm on fi sabilillah till the day I die, mate. So what are you on about? 40 days. Oh, but you know, what, you're going to go from mosque to mosque, sleeping in the mosque, farting in the mosque with 3 fingers, because I've seen that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Astaghfirullah.
That's an actual thing.
You know, you have to sit in a certain way. It just gets beyond the ridiculous. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I would purposely eat with my left hand. You know, I was always not a trouble causer, but I like to see people's reactions sometimes. When I was younger, I liked arguing as well. Whereas nowadays, as I've got older, I can't be bothered.
Yeah.
When people say, "Oh, brother, you've got a piercing in your nose," or "You've got a piercing in your ear," I'll say, "So what?" Or like the last time I was outside a mosque and this guy grabbed my nose.
Allah.
He grabbed my nose and said, "What is this in your nose?" And I slapped his hand. I said, "Get the F off me, you." And he said, "How dare you?" And I said, "How dare you, mate? How dare you touch my face? I don't know where your hands have been. You know, that is a form of assault. Well, you shouldn't be wearing a piercing in your nose. This is for women." And I said, "I tell you what, mate, in your culture, women wear piercings. But in my culture, men wear piercings. So stick that back up your backside." You know.
Allah.
And they leave me alone. They leave me alone now. But you know, sometimes I have to be forceful because some people will abuse you. They'll try it on. Narcissists exist in the mosque as much as they exist anywhere. And they'll try it on, and they'll try and belittle you, and they'll try and destroy you. Destroy your reputation, and you know, because they see. I remember one guy saying, "Oh, you've only become Muslim because you want to marry our women," and I said, "What's this our women nonsense?"
Oh.
You know, it's like you're crazy, man. But you know, I began to realise throughout the years that, you know, some people really are from like little villages and don't know jack shit. So when people come up to me and go, "Why have you got a piercing?" I'll say, "Why sky? Why sky?" And they're like, "What, brother? Why sky? You asked me why piercing in the ear. I'm telling you why sky. Because that's what my little boy told me one day. Why sky, Daddy? Why sky?"
Oh.
Yeah. Why do we have the sky, Daddy?
Yeah.
I've got 2 boys and I've got 1 stepson of 2 boys. Suleiman is 11, Noah is 7, and Corey is 7. But they're great.
Oh, great. Interesting choice of names, by the way. 1 Arabic and the other 2 English.
Yeah, well, Corey, that's his mama named him Corey. Corey's got a different daddy. But Noah and Suleiman are my boys. So when Suleiman was born, because I was there at each birth, it just popped out of my mouth. I didn't even think about it. It's like I just knew it was his name for some reason. And his mum looked at me. I said, "Oh, it must be Suleiman then." And we called him Suleiman because I saw him. I went, "Suleiman," like it was his name, you know. It just happened in the moment. I just called him Suleiman. And it's like, he's like Suleiman, alayhi salam. He is always with nature, likes to talk to animals. He's always hugging trees, loves flowers, loves pretty girls. But he's such a little gent, just like his brother, the gentleman, you know. And with Noah, because I wanted something biblical, and I thought, oh, salam. And I didn't want to give him the Arabic version because people don't speak like that in our language.
No, they don't.
But everybody knows Noah. So I thought, okay, Noah. And his mum was like, "Oh, I like Noah. Noah and the Ark." I was like, "Yeah, brilliant." So, you know, that's how they got their names. But I don't think it's essential to have an Arabic name at all.
Well, I've spoken to a lot of scholars, and they are absolutely on your side that, you know, it's... I also don't see the point either. I mean, okay, if you like it, go for it. But interesting fact, this happened in a mosque in Botswana, by the way, and of all places, the first mosque in Botswana. So there was once a man, and he was from the rural places in Botswana. This was in Lobatse, a town called Lobatse, and this man was interested in Islam. So I happened to be there as well, although that's like more than 300 kilometers from where I live. So yeah, they talked to him, and he was ready to take the Shahada, and he did take the Shahada, alhamdulillah. And then they asked him after all this, like, "What's your name?" And he said his name was Khoitsi Mudimu. And for everyone who speaks Setswana, Khoitsi Mudimu literally means to know God. And I just thought, yeah, it means to know God. You know, Khoitsi, to know, Mudimu. Mudimu means God. And I thought that this is so poetic that his name means to know God, and Allah brought him to the masjid.
Yeah, and you know, and he should keep his name. As I said, you're keeping that name, mate. That's a great name.
Well, I mean, that's what I would have said, but then because of the way things are, they were like, "No, he has to change it to Muhammad." I'm like, wait, why?
Does no one else see the poetic beauty of what just happened? Anyway.
Yeah, it absolutely does get silly. I hope that...
I always give people the choice, mate. Whenever I've taken a Shahada, I've given the choice. I've said, right, would you like to keep your name, or would you like to have a new name? Because traditionally, you would get a new name. Muslims would do this, and I remember one of my friends, David. He was doing his Shahada with me, and we had a bit of a party, you know, because that's how I do it. When people do Shahada, we have a bit of a do, you know, some food and that. And I said, you know, right, David, we're going to do the Shahada now. And I had him sat on the floor, knee to knee, facing me, and I would hold his hand, and that's how I was brought into the deen, and I passed that on. And I held his hand, and we did the Shahada, and he said, "I'd like to keep my name, but can I have the Arabic version, Dawood?" I said, "That's all right then." So he became Dawood. And the amazing thing was, his father was Pakistani, but his father died when he was a little boy, so he never really knew him. So he was brought up by an English lady. And so he kind of like came back home, so to speak, and he used to put his photograph of his father on the wall, you know. Always paid respects to his father. He always wished he could know him more and stuff. But yeah, you know, I've met some very interesting people take Shahada. throughout my life, all different types of people. And recently, 2 years ago, my friend who's transsexual, she used to be a man over 20 years ago, and she's a woman now, and she wanted to take Shahada. She said, what do I do? Because people are telling me to go away, not accepting me. And I said, look, it's quite obvious that Allah put a female soul in a man's body. That's how I see it. And she giggled and said, yeah, that's exactly what it is. And if you saw her, you would not think she looks like a lady. She looks like a woman. And she has a husband now, a Turkish man, and she's taken her Shahada. Now she's Muslim, and there's a Sufi community that I got in contact with in London, and they look after her now. And she was in the newspapers because she used to wear the hijab, and it caused, because she was a model, you see.
Oh, I see.
Before Islam, she was a model, you see. So, but I accept all types of people, I do think the whole transsexual legacy today has been blown out of proportion, and people are making money out of it, because surgeries and drugs, it costs money, and somebody's making out of this whole scenario. But there are some people that they appear male but they're female, and they appear female but they're male. And these people existed during the time of the Prophet ﷺ. It's well documented, and they were loved and respected like any other member of the community. So, that's how you have to deal with it today. Sexuality is not straightforward. They are men that are born with a womb inside them. There's men born with both organs. There's women born with both sexual organs. But yes, majority are male and female, but there's a lot of in-betweeners. Where do they go? And when they want to take Shahada, where do they go? Who do they talk to? There's not many people, so by Allah's put me in situations where I've met people where, like with her, I've gone, here you are, Bismillah, go to the Sufi mosque. I couldn't go and do the Shahada with her, but I said, you're welcome. And she's my Muslim sister now. That's it, simple as that. And I'll have words with any man that says any otherwise. But that's how, again, seeing beyond the form and seeing the spirit come through. And some people who are bigots and against gays, homosexuals, and lesbians and all that, most of these people have never had real interaction with these people. There's normal people. And in fact, statistically, my stepfather was a social worker, I mentioned. And there's a lot of gay fathers, that adopt children. And he was saying, he says, statistically, the gay men are doing it. They're better fathers than most fathers, better mothers, and I think, especially the Muslim world, they really need to come forward with this now. Turkey's got on board with it, Iran's got on board with it, and I think people, sexuality is a touchy subject, but I think whatever sexuality somebody takes, it's their choice, and just leave them alone. Just leave them. Yeah. So what? Why is it affecting you? Why does it bother you?
Absolutely.
What's the issue here? Why is it bothering you? It shouldn't do.
No, not at all.
But, you know, but I understand the sensitivities. When you're coming from a culture that doesn't have it, you know, we in the West here, you know, I lived in Manchester for 10 years, where we have a massive gay community, and it's totally normal. You know, and transvestites as well, which are not men that just wear ladies' clothes. And some of them are married. They're heterosexuals, not even gay, but they dress up as women. And I remember when I first went to Manchester, and I was like, I've never seen so many. But then I realised I was in the gay village, because I was walking through. I was like, oh, right, I'm in the gay village, that's why. But, you know, it's, you know, people is people. You've got good and bad in everybody. Do you know what? You know, the biggest shaitans I've ever met, I've had massive beards and go to the mosque or go to the church and start preaching the holy ins and out. They're the biggest shaitans. You know, behind closed doors, they're beating their wife up, they're abusing their children, or they're selling, shipping in heroin and stuff. The things that I've experienced, you won't believe. You wouldn't believe. In fact, you know, I think maybe inshallah I might write a book one day. It'll probably get banned. But the things that I've experienced, you would not believe. You know, I've seen little shops rise from a little shop to being a massive franchise because my man was bringing in heroin. You know, it's not always what he's seen, not always what he's seen to be. You know, and it was heartbreaking for me as a convert because I thought stepping into every mosque was holy. You know, whoa, everybody's loving Allah and the Prophet ﷺ. And then you realise that human beings are human beings, and just because my man's got a big beard and been on Hajj half a dozen times, don't make him holy.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely. And
I can totally relate because I've met people like that in my own life as well. In hindsight, I am a tad bit grateful for them because they actually did push me out of their narrow circles and, you know, actually allowed me to open my mind and come across people such as yourself and plenty of other scholars whom I have, you know, interviewed on this podcast itself. But Brother Celt, Jazakallah khairan, may Allah reward you for coming onto this podcast. It's been such an amazing episode. I think the most controversial one I've done ever, but yeah, at least you've got an accolade next to your name now that you were my most controversial guest, at least until the recording of this episode. Where can we find you? What are your social media platforms that you use?
I'm on Facebook as Celt Islam, Facebook/Celt Islam. If you type in Celt Islam, I've got a group there. I'm on SoundCloud. I'm on YouTube, Instagram, Twitter. All this. If you type in Celt Islam in Google, it's just never ending. You know, because I've had a presence on the web for a long time.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, you know, I'm on. Welcome to add me. Ask, you know, if they want an interview or if they just want to chat, ask questions. Absolutely. You know, and you know, I'm still Talib. I'm still learning. You know, I don't know everything. I never will know everything. But if there's one thing I've got is experience. You know, and tasting things that other people haven't tasted and experiencing things that other people haven't experienced. And plus the fact that I'm a typical British guy that is not the average as you think.
Absolutely.
You know, I've got to be truthful about it. You know, he who knows himself knows his Lord. And, you know, may Allah forgive us all. That's all I can say. May Allah forgive us all. We're all sinners. But do you know what? Allah is most merciful, loves us, and He'll forgive us. We just got to get, persevere in being a good person, love everybody, and harm nobody. If you haven't got anything good to say, well, keep your mouth shut. And that's what I say, kids.
And, what a way to end off a very, well, heated in a good way episode. A very hot and cold episode where we had two punks coming together and being punks. Because, at the end of the day, I guess you can't actually fight your real nature as a man. So to all my friends who are laughing hard at this, the punk never died.
Saint Jimmy is alive.
And yeah. So, Jazakallah khairan once again, Brother Celt. I would love to host you in person in Botswana one day. And yes, inshallah, I will provide your security, because I'm sure after this, people will be after your head. They'll be after my head as well. What's new there?
I'll tell you what, I'm a dangerous guy, so you can come and try it on with me. No, it's not happening. All death threats. When you make a death threat, all you do is curse yourself. You're cursing yourself, because that is not what Allah wants from you. No. Allah wants you to be a good person, to bring people to the good in a good way. The Prophet ﷺ never murdered anyone. He never put anybody down because they spoke their mind. Never. Some people used to abuse the Prophet ﷺ. He'd pray for them. If you have a problem with me, pray for me, and I'll pray for you. Perfect. I don't know it all, but I'm a man of love and respect for everybody and everything. And you need that today. There's too much death and destruction. And that's the shaitan, the death and the destruction, wanting to destroy, wanting to harm. No more. It's about getting together, put aside your differences, and just love one another. So peace and love to my enemies out there.
There you go. I mean, for some reason, that sounds very punk rock. But yeah. So once again, from Botswana, Jazakallahu khairan. May Allah reward you, Brother Celt. And I hope you, I hope you have. Yeah, definitely. We need to follow up on this. It wasn't controversial enough.
Add me on Facebook, and I'll send you some of my albums. My 10th album's out next year in January. Inshallah. So it's ready now, but because of it would have been out this year, but I can't do any shows, so I'm going to wait till after the new year, release the album, and then I'll start building up the shows again. So inshallah, I might come down your way and put a show on for everybody. Get them all mushing. Get them all mushing.
Yeah. We'd love that. We'd love that.
Salam, brother. Everything of the best to you. I know it's an ungodly hour there as well. It's almost midnight from what I can see, and here it's almost 2 a.m. But we hope everyone had a very eventful session. A lot of things to be learned from two punk rockers. What will you know about that? But hey, it is what it is. But from the scholar and the student, once again, I hope everyone had a good time. I hope they all learned something. I hope they were challenged to think about things in different perspective. But until next time, we have to sign off now, take our leave.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Peace and love, everyone.
Well, you reached the end. Well done. I guess I'll give you a little bit of a prize by reminding you to like, share.
Assalamu alaikum. It has been forever, hasn't it? I mean, I've gotten a new beard, which moving forward, inshallah, will be one of the signatures of the Scholar and the Student podcast. It's been a wild ride. I hope you enjoyed the season finale with Celt Islam, my punk brother, my Muslim brother, all the way from the UK. And I just want to say that, alhamdulillah, it's been my most controversial one yet, but definitely not my last. In other words, what I am saying in a long-winded way is that Season 3 is definitely happening, inshallah. Thank you to everyone who has liked, shared, and subscribed on all the platforms. Thank you to the people who are donating on Patreon. It took me a while to realize that that stuff doesn't actually work in Botswana, so don't worry, I got you guys. I'll figure out a way to monetize things even while living here in Botswana.
So don't worry, we're working on that. But yeah, season 3 is definitely happening, inshallah. That's all I jumped in here to tell you. Also, I'd like to say that the special project I mentioned at the end of last season and didn't end up happening, well, inshallah, it's happening this time. I'm working harder on that. But I'm also going to say that the scholar and the student is not going anywhere. I'm going to give you a promo for season 3. But I will say that it is definitely blossoming into something that's going to revolutionize the industry. So you keep your eyes and ears peeled for that. Until then, enjoy this promo of season 3 to the tune of Hikam by the one and only Celt Islam featuring our punk buzruk Aki Nawaz, because you know that track slaps. But yeah, hit it, Celt. Right.